As they stand there, all 42 of them gathered at the foot of Midnight's podium, Izuku fastens his focus on the wheel of activities, watching it spin and land on. Yep, capture the points. UA's weird version of capture the flag, exactly what he predicted for the second round. And as such, they will be working in teams of 2 to 4, with their team being worth their collective points, dictated by the first round placements. Izuku is painfully aware that as all 3 of them came in the top 10, their points are going to be sky high. Which would be good, except it leaves them as a target, particularly with Shido having inched his way into second. Their target will be even bigger, what with the combination of his quirkless status, Hitoshi's unknown but presumed weak status, and the possible prestige of stealing the number 2 hero's kids' points. Between the 3 of them, they will be an obvious choice to go after. But Izuku already has a strategy in mind and he refuses to allow them to fall at so early a hurdle. But first, are we going to team you dash? Don't even question it, Green Bean. We planned for this, Hitoshi interrupts, and Izuku can't help but smile at his 2 friends. Hopefully nobody else will ask to join their team. Zoning back into Midnight's speech, Izuku just catches the tail end of. And so on from there, all the way up to first place, Bakugo Katsuki, who has 10 million points. There's a clamor from both the crowd and the students. Izuku isn't surprised, this isn't the first time that UA has pulled something like this after all. At least none of their 3 had come first. He deliberately had warned Shido of the fact, albeit leaving the choice between his father's ire and their targetability up to the heterochromatic teen. And maybe Izuku should be worried about Indehor's potential punishments for his friend, but his worries could wait until they had gotten through to the 3rd round. And then Izuku would have a chance to enact his own plans to take down the bastard. But that wasn't a problem for now. Right now he just wanted to get them through to the 3rd round. As Midnight rounded off her speech with another crack of her whip, not that she was weird or anything, Izuku bumped shoulders with his 2 friends and began to sign their strategy recap, keeping his movements as small and discreet as possible, hidden in the triangle formed by their bodies. All okay still, he rounds off. Both of his friends nod seriously, Hitoshi letting a sadistic grin escape and Izuku resists the urge to return it, as he would on patrol with his eraser dad. He makes do with allowing his eyes to light up with an unholy glee. Usually, that look prompts his Dadzawa to either Cheshire grin in return and start sending his capture scarf to keep Izuku still, in place, and not doing something likely minorly illegal. His 2 friends don't even flinch, Hitoshi's smirk only widening. Man, Izuku loves his friends. Less than a minute later, an unfamiliar support course student with bubblegum dreadlocks and too many gadgets to count bounces over to them, grinning widely. Hey there, top teners. Don't suppose you want another team member? She is practically vibrating in place, mouth stretched out in a grin that is less welcoming and more toothy. Izuku likes her. No, thank you, Shido speaks up, tone flat but managing a vaguely apologetic expression. For a moment, the girl pouts, then straightens up and grins even wider. Okay. My name's Hatsune though, don't you dare forget it. Me and my babies are gonna be the best out there. And with that she's gone again. Izuku kind of wants to go after her because she was cool and seemed like his brand of crazy genius, but he knows to leave it until later. Right now, he's got to focus on the plan for Toshi and Sho to get through to the next round without any problems. His strategy should be fine, nothing has come up to poke any holes in it just yet, so he'll take that. It takes another 10 minutes of waiting around, deciding not to chat what with the cameras and audience potentially seeing their every sign. Standing in their tight little triangle for the entire time would seem a bit too odd and they would like to actually get some internship offers. So they stand towards the edge of the arena, pressed comfortably shoulder to shoulder, and simply observe the other teams that are forming amongst their peers. Whilst most aren't surprising, seeing Kaminari with Ida, Yaoyorozu and Yururika isn't quite expected, although Izuku can easily see the logic. Thanks to her quirk, Yaoyorozu can protect the rest of her team from Kaminari's electricity, and Yururika can aid their maneuverability and speed, putting less strain on Ida. It looks like Hatsune managed to convince Bakugo to let her join his team, and Izuku does allow himself to shudder a little at that. Hopefully, Bakugu will remember the potential repercussions for coming after Izuku specifically and overly violently, even in the heat of the moment. Before the Greenette can continue analyzing the teams that have formed, Midnight suddenly starts to speak again. "And time's up, kiddies. Brace yourselves." And that's all the warning they get before the ground beneath their feet abruptly starts to shift and then shoots upwards in segments. Good, platforms, like Izuku had predicted. Scanning the new layout, the team is glad to notice that their platform, a square of concrete about 10 meters wide, is about 3/4 of the way up. There are only 3 platforms higher than theirs, one at practically the same height, and then 7 lower. That gives them something a vantage point. Plus, they're right at the outer edge of the arena space, which had been intentional, hence them having stood as far back as they could during the prep time, and that would also play into their strengths. "You have 2 minutes, when the buzzer goes off, you can leave your platforms. Good luck everyone." Midnight crows with yet another crack of her whip. Izuku instantly turns to where a little flag has been brought out of their platform floor. Bright yellow, with red numbers. They're the second-place team currently. So long as they protect this flag, they'll be nigh on impossible to push out of the competition. So, defense is their primary aim. "Shudo," Izuku prompts. His heterochromatic friend offers a firm nod and walks over to the flag. Crouching in front of it, he creates 3 ice domes. Each is around an inch thick, maybe a little less, and his intense concentration allows him to make said ice almost completely translucent. The rules dictated that the flag must not be hidden, only protected. And well, it is clearly visible, if perhaps a little warped. It's just not directly accessible, they're well within the rules. And, judging by the lack of comment from Cementos, Midnight, Present Mike or his dad, all of the overseers know that too. Izuku wouldn't expect any less from his dad. Rolling out his shoulders and falling into a few lunges to stretch, he meets Hitoshi's gaze and they too exchange a nod. The 3 of them know what they're doing. Now it's just a matter of dealing with whatever dares to come up. Honestly, Izuku is enjoying this so far. Maybe he's not in his preferred terrain, but he's adaptable and he'd be damned if he didn't take full advantage of everything possible, loopholes included, particularly as he can at least parkour and sneak around as desired this round. They'll be fine. And it doesn't take long for Present Mike to begin a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. Several people immediately jump into action, Izuku amongst them. With a few steps, he's jumping onto a platform a few meters below them, landing without a sound or wobble, just in the blind spot of the 1B kid with lots of teeth and limp blonde hair. It looks like, yep, looking at the ground surrounding this team's flag, it looks suspiciously loose and soft. As though the concrete was freshly poured, rather than set. A softening quirk of some sort. But still, there is a circle, a few inches round, surrounding the flag to stop it sinking. And that's just enough to land on. Assessing that the other team is sufficiently distracted by observing another fight on the next platform along, Izuku sneaks forwards on silent feet. Then, once he's just at the edge of the soft patch, he bounces twice on his feet then throws himself forwards, half flipping to land on his hands, almost poking his eye out on the flag itself. Thank God the things are only about 6 inches tall. Carefully transferring all of his weight to one hand, he snatches up the flag, tucking it into his belt, then settles back onto both hands. Bending at the elbows, he tenses up, then throws his weight back and up, pushing as hard as he can against the floor. A moment later, he lands back on his feet, toes just beginning to sink into the softened concrete, but it's easy enough to simply take another step back. One flag down, as many more as possible to go. Staying firmly behind the 1B kid, Izuku half turns to reassess his next planned platform. There are currently 4 people on there, 2 clearly on the defense, being targeted by Shuji and Tokoyami. A lot of the attacks are landing in and around the flag there. Not to mention, the 5 people mean that he is all the more likely to get noticed. Okay, so he'll skip that flag. However, he does still need it to get to the platform after, so... Deciding it was well worth the risk, Izuku double-checks that his stolen flag is securely tucked into his belt, visible, but not likely to fall out, then takes a deep breath and throws himself forward. For a long moment, he is suspended, high above a yawning concrete cavern, but then he is landing, absorbing the shock with a neat little roll, edge of his new platform only a risky few inches to his left, before he pops up, runs 1, 2, 3, 4, then jumps again, landing silently on the balls of his feet. Distantly, he notes the shouts of shock from the 4 he had passed so quickly, but they're quick to return to their own fight. But they're unimportant. His focus is on the 3 opponents, not villains, don't get carried away, they're still students, and 2 flags before him. Looks like this team have already retrieved 1 extra. And they've got 2 on defense. Not bad. But still, it won't be good enough. Not against Izuku. In a blink, Izuku is darting forwards, sensing more than seeing all 3 of the other competitors startle and turn in his direction. But they're too slow. Before they can focus on him, before they can jump forwards or utilize their quirks, Izuku is in and gone again, yet another flag clutched tightly in his fist, already stuffing it into his belt. As the shout goes up for someone to grab him, Izuku is already throwing himself off of the platform. One-handed, he grabs a hold of the nearest slab of concrete, wincing internally at the jarring strain, before swinging away, aiming to land upon one of the few unoccupied platforms. It doesn't take a thought to jam the second flag into the opposite side of his belt, and then he's landing, rolling, up again, running forwards then jumping upwards. Now clinging on to the edge of yet another section, he takes a breath and swings. His legs seesaw forwards, then he uses the consequent backwards momentum and sheer upper body strength to flip backwards onto the new platform. On his feet again, he faces his new competitors. Ah, it's Ojiro. Up against Aoyama. Well, it's fairly obvious who would have been winning this fight, no offense, Aoyama, but now Izuku is here. And well, it's still fairly obvious, in his opinion, albeit with a different result. Sorry, he offers, no trace of a stutter in the face of his battle mindset, then blurs forward. In a few long strides, he is tumbling into a handspring, feet aimed for Aoyama, right in the solar plexus, and the French boy gets sent flying right off of the platform. Hopefully he can use his laser to get himself a better landing. But Izuku is already twisting in the air to secure his own steady landing on his feet, suddenly stood stock still again. Ojiro is gaping at him, but he does have a guard up. Izuku can respect him for that much. It won't be enough though. No matter how accomplished the blonde is, he is still dojo trained. In a fight with rules, there's a good chance he'd at least give Izuku a run for his money, but here, with something to protect against a street-trained fighter who is willing to use dirty tricks and his hard-won expertise, Ojiro is undoubtedly going to lose. Accordingly, Izuku simply stand there, posture relaxed, hands loose at his side. His feet are carefully placed though, and his eyes are calculated. The tailed boy doesn't miss that. Hence why he stays back, defensive, trying to predict what Izuku will do. But the last thing he expects is for Izuku to take 4 slow steps backwards, towards the edge of the platform, and then to, apparently deliberately, drop right off of the edge. Alarmed, Ojiro runs forwards. Only to notice the white-knuckled fingers clinging on to the edge. But he notices too late, Izuku is already swinging his way back up on the platform, legs swooping up low to the ground, taking Ojiro out with a vicious side swipe even whilst finding himself in a crouch on the platform yet again. Before Ojiro can even think to get up, Izuku is going again. And he may or may not kick the blonde in the stomach on the way past, knowing it will wind him and prevent pursuit. Now Izuku has 3 flags. Perhaps he should take a break. It's no fun if they don't leave enough for the other teams to fight over after all. For a long second, Izuku hesitates over his own thought process. That was a bit arrogant, in all honesty. But by the same token, his dad would probably call it finally gathering some self-confidence, if somewhat sadistically so. Perhaps it's fine then. Huffing to himself, Izuku scans his surroundings again. Finding a place to hang out for a bit would be good, preferably somewhere fairly out of sight. And with that, out of mind. After dashing across a few platforms, crossing them before anybody can react, Izuku finds himself on an unoccupied area. And pauses to take a proper breath. Looking over to where Shudo is, barely visible from here, between distant and things blocking his view, he can see that his friend is just fine. Judging by the couple of ice spears protruding off of their platform, he had only needed to deter a few Oppo competitors, Izuku their competitors, away, before people had begun to steer clear. And, judging by the odd flash of purple he can see, Hitoshi is doing well too, keeping an eye out for any potential thieves and, presumable, taking any unguarded flags. Just because it's an unlikely eventuality, doesn't mean it's an impossible one. Might as well take advantage where they can. 3 minutes, listeners, just 3 minutes to go. At the moment, we have Team Bakugo in the lead, managing to keep a hold of their 10 million point flag, in addition to collecting 2 more. But way into second is Team Midoriya, with 1875 points. Then Team Yaoyorozu with 930, and currently in the last final round spot is Team Monoma with 860. But all could change, listeners, so keep those eyes peeled. Zoning back out of present mix commentary, Izuku scans his more immediate surroundings. Where can he hide out for now? Ah. Perfect. Not too far away, there is some kind of net, the edges weighted with something like crossbow arrows, barbed and straight shafted, that attach it, dangling vertically, to the bottom of a platform not too far and above where he is now. And it's right near the edges of the arena space. After deciding his route, Izuku is quick to parkour his way over to said net, and he fearlessly jumps straight to it. Even just a glance, he can tell that it is sturdy, likely one of Yaoyorozu's creations, and at least 4 of the hooks are thoroughly embedded into the concrete. It'll be safe. And so Izuku leaps forwards and latches on, feeling it jerk and give a little at his sudden weight and momentum. But it holds, as expected. The green net quickly scales it so that he can tuck himself right under the platform, firmly in the shadows and out of most sight lines. He can safely hunker down here for a while. All is fine, until Mike yells. 1 minute to go, listeners. You're in the last 60 seconds of the second round. Are we gonna see any last minute, get it? Changes to the points board? And that in and of itself isn't a problem. The issue is when a series of explosion issue from the top of Izuku's platform and the whole thing shakes, dropping cement dust. Then he can hear Bakugo roar something along the lines of "Die shitty extra," and the cry of someone unfamiliar, but then Izuku's platform does more than shudder under the next detonation. It cleaves straight in half, the break forming so as to connect the hooks like dot to dot. Izuku is not very impressed. For a long moment, Izuku can only squint up through the cement dust, meeting those red eyes as he begins to fall backwards through the air, his hiding place gone. Why does Bakugo always make him freeze up? Why is he such a useless fucking Deku when faced with the blonde? So what if he had bullied him viciously for a decade? So what if he had told Izuku to kill himself 7 times? So what? No, now wasn't the time. Now was the time to twist himself in air, find purchase on the chunks of platform falling around him and push off again. More rubble, jump further, another piece, now he can reach a platform. But as he swings himself up, he hears that dreaded screech. Deku. And he can't help but flinch, even as he's up and racing away, already leaping for yet another platform, because he can hear the explosions behind him and feel their heat searing his skin, hear the taunts of his bullies in his ears and feel the heavy-heartedness of seeing his dreams crumbling to pie. Time's up, everyone. And what an exciting round that was. Izuku freezes as the explosions stop. As Present Mike announces the passing teams and their scores. He stays there, still and unbreathing, as the platforms carefully lower themselves back into place, forming a flat arena once more, even if it is broken up and covered in various bits of gadgets and equipment. He finally moves when Hitoshi and Shudo race up to him, carefully crowding to his sides in a way that is so blatantly protective that there is no way he could feel overwhelmed or awkward or unsafe. He finally breathes in, and offers them both a shaky, but sincere smile. He forces himself to ignore the sound of little pops and crackles as Bakugo bickers with Hao own teammates quite a distance away. He's safe now. And, even better, they're through to the third round. Just to offer a proper explanation of Izuku's strategy. Shudo stays back on the far edge of their large platform, 3 distinct layers of ice doming over their flag, translucent enough to be, in sight, as necessary in the rules, but utilizing the loophole within that Izuku spotted, as theirs isn't directly accessible, but they didn't say it had to be, a field of ice rendering the rest of the platform nearly impossible to land and fight on. They're lucky enough to have a fairly high platform, about 3/4 of the way up, and take full advantage of the fact. Izuku is their vanguard and main offense, as he parkours his way around all of the platforms and sneaks in to take whatever flags he can. Shinso acts as a sort of scout in initial defense, working in a ring around their platform, both on the levels above and below, trying to keep most of their potential opponents away without revealing his quirk and warning Shudo preemptively of anyone approaching. He wishes he could do more, but Aizu and Shudo tell him to save your best for later, Toshi, when it will be more of an advantage. Let us help you like you help us. So, reluctantly, he agrees to keep his quirk under wraps. Logically, he knows that's best, it's just to feel like he's not really contributing. Needless to say, their strategy works pretty damn well and plays to all of their individual strengths whilst still keeping them as a cohesive unit. They have an 1.5-hour break before the third round matchups are announced, and the 3 are quick to get to the quieter corridors, headed towards the main school building. Their usual lunchtime courtyard is only a 10-minute walk, so they will definitely have plenty enough time to eat and get back. Oh, wait. Is it okay if I meet you two there in a bit? Izuku receives 2 scrutinizing glances, so he goes on, want to see my dad. And now Shudo and Hitoshi are giving him fond little smiles that would be practically invisible if he didn't know their expressions so very well. Sure, Green Bean, we'll see you at our usual spot. Thanks, Toshi, Sho. Izuku chirps aloud, grinning at them for a second before suddenly running forwards a few steps, jumping, and latching onto an air vent that swings open with his weight. As soon as it's hanging vertically by its hinges, Izuku transfers his grip to the inside of the air vent and pulls himself up, foot hooking around the cover to bring it back up behind him. And then he's gone. For a long second, Hitoshi and Shudo stare at the gap between them in bewilderment, then meet each other's shocked gazes. Our green bean sure is a cryptid. Indeed, Shudo replies, eyes crinkling fondly at the corners to match Hitoshi's self-satisfied smirk. They adore their weird little friend after all. Lunch? Lunch, the heterochromatic boy concurs, and if they end up walking closer together, it's only because Izuku's left a gap. And, okay, maybe their pinkies are interlocked, but it's because they are friends and they don't want the other to get lost, right? That's perfectly normal. And if it makes them both blush a little, then nobody else is around to notice. Meanwhile, Izuku is crawling through the vents, humming softly to himself. A week ago, he may or may not have hacked into the school system to look at all of the blueprints at like 3 in the morning. Sometimes his brain won't shut up, so he can't sleep, and he itches to do something productive. And well, examining the school blueprints for potential weak points was pretty productive, in his books. And then he'd found the plans for the sports festival arena, vents included, and he couldn't not take advantage of that knowledge to avoid the inevitable crowds. So here he was, crawling in what he was fairly sure was the direction for the announcer's booth. Hopefully, around one more corner, then a left junction and, yep, he could see his dad and present mic below the grate he was currently peering through. Silent, not sure if the microphones were still activated, he unlatched the vent cover and eased it open, then swung himself out, dropping into a silent crouch on the floor behind the hero's seats. Immediately, his dad spun to face him, quirk activated, but then smirked at seeing who it was. Really, kiddo, the vents? Present Mike turned and yelped, then began to laugh. Hey there, little listener. You here to see your dad? Izuku simply nods, offering the blonde man a small smile, then bounds forwards to perch on the desk where the microphones and 2 open bentos lay. You could have told me about the speech thing, Dadzawa. Did you want me to shit myself? Aizawa barks out a laugh, both he and Izuku tactfully ignoring Hizashi's spluttering. Knew you'd be fine. Was I wrong? You tell me, old man. If you must know, brat, I was right, as always. Thanks Dadzawa, Izuku coos, seemingly sarcastic, but there is a genuine undertone that Aizawa would be hard-pressed to miss. And if he can't help but reach over to ruffle his brat's hair? Well, sue him. It's fluffy. So you're in the third round. Finally going to use your bow staff? Probably. Particularly if they're setting up 3-on-3, or well, team-on-team fights like I think they are. I'll want the versatility and the option to let Toshi borrow it. Again, they both ignore present Mike choking on nothing, but then he gasps out. How you shouldn't know, show dash. He's a conniving little sneak, he figured it out by himself. And I hadn't confirmed or denied it yet. Nice to know I was right though. Izuku grins sharply at the glare his dad sent him at that. Don't get arrogant, pride comes dash. Before a fall, and I don't want to fall with our usual patrol routes. Got it, worrywart. TCH, Aizawa grunts at him, nudging the brat's leg with his elbow. Don't sit so close to my food. You'll get teenager in it. Wow, articulate. Says you. Yes, says me, Izuku returns in English, earning a fierce scowl. You fucking brat. Hobo caterpillar. Insufferable dash, they both stop to stare at Hizashi, who is bent over in his seat and cackling, hair threatening to stab into his open bento box. Then they meet each other's deadpan stares and wait. Eventually, they can hear themselves think once again, and Aizawa speaks up. You've done well so far, kiddo, keep it up. Now go eat your lunch. And Izuku leans into the accompanying hair ruffle, then bounces off of the table and up into the vents once more, clicking the cover shut behind him. After a few seconds, Hizashi smiles at his friend. He really is your Kidilante, Husho? Yeah, Aizawa huffs, apparently unaware of the content's smile tugging at his lips. However, present Mike certainly doesn't miss it and can't help but grin in response. It's good to see his best friend so happy. Having enjoyed a quiet lunch with his two friends, Izuku, Shido, and Hitoshi were headed back into the stadium space. The waiting rooms were open to the third-round competitors, one to each team. So Aizu, how do we think they're structuring the third round? Shido asks and Izuku bounces a step as he delves into his thoughts. It's guaranteed to be a tournament. I have a feeling they might go for team matchups first though. Well, between the statistics I calculated and the current state of society, and UA's reputation and everything, I think they're going to keep on promoting the whole teamwork and cooperation thing, and so they'll probably go for continued teamwork, particularly as the last round was strategic teamwork rather than combination fighting, for the most part. So at that point the teams will be competing against each other, then I'd assume that the top team will battle it out between themselves for each of the top spots, although that might leave room for bias and for teammates carrying each other. Although, from what I know, all of the teams are individually really skilled, so that's not actually a problem, but it could have been, and they really should have considered that, but knowing Nedzu-sensei, he would have changed things last minute if that had been a serious issue and dash. All three of them freeze when they round a corner to the site of endeavor. Shido's hand is immediately gone from Izuku's and the heterochromatic boy goes to step forwards, to put himself in between his friends and his father. But before he can plant himself, stance wide and ready, mouth open to speak, he is tugged backwards by a small, strong hand on his bicep, and pushed gently to Hitoshi's side. Endeavor-san. And God, Izuku's voice is all ice and steel, unyielding and unwelcoming yet passive enough to still be polite. Holy shit. I'm not here to speak to you, runt. I'm here for my moss, son. What a shame he's not here to speak to you then, hero. The title is spat like a foul curse, derisive and disbelieving, the tone alone making it obvious that Izuku thinks the man a blight upon the profession. He's not wrong. You dash. The flame hero stretches out a menacing hand, and Shido is about to speak up, but the greenette beats him to it. I'm Midoriya Izuku, I apologize for not introducing myself earlier, sir. Izuku chirps, suddenly all sunshine and rainbows, an adoring smile breaking out on his face. Endeavor flinches. Oh sir, do you know how incredible Shudo is? The way that he controls his quirk is brilliant. And his unique fighting style and individual applications of a two-part elemental quirk are really cool. Such a contrast to the drab, washed-up fire users you normally see on TV, flaunting unnecessary strength as though it makes them good heroes, or even good people. And their levels of collateral damage. Honestly, it's a wonder that nobody has collated all of the evidence of their brutality and sent it to the media yet, don't you think? It must be about time after all, that they learnt their place, and here Izuku abruptly loses the sickly sweetness that is more sinister than a loaded gun, falling back into a frozen abyss. With the leeches where they belong. Endeavor stands there, blinking at this scarred, saccharine teenager who had just threatened him so clearly yet improvably, flames guttering and flickering. With an Aizawa trademark Cheshire grin, Izuku bounces on his toes, turns to latch onto his friend's wrists, and pulls them past the number 2 hero. He pays no attention to how he leaves his back wide open to the man, nor how Shudo and Hitoshi are utterly stunned, simply tugging them around the stupefied flame hero and continues on their way to their waiting room. Aizu dash. Not yet Toshi. In private, once I've texted Nedzu-sensei. Fortunately, it only takes them a minute to reach said waiting room and Izuku immediately pulls out his phone and texts first Nedzu, then his dad. Then the three stand in silence for a long few moments. Holy shit, Hitoshi suddenly giggles, sounding fairly hysterical as he collapses to sit on the floor, still laughing. Green bean, that was holy shit. I've taken down people more dangerous than him before. And I wasn't lying about the evidence part, Shudo, the instant you ask for it, or if I think he's going too far, which I know shouldn't be my decision, but damn it, I won't see you hurt, not if I can help it, then my files get sent to the police and Nedzu. And I'll be publicly shaming him too, although not for abuse, unfortunately. But it would be shitty for you and your siblings to have your home life publicized, so that bit will be kept to select officers and heroes. And here Izuku finally falters, suddenly unsure of himself, throat seizing up. Is that okay? Silence and stillness hang in the air. None of them move, nor even seem to breathe. But then there are strong arms wrapped around Izuku, pulling him in close, Shudo whispering a litany of quiet thank yous into his hair. Preceded by a groan of effort, Hitoshi stands back up from the floor to embrace them both, Izuku worming out an arm to hold him close too. Who knows how long they stand there, leaning into each other, before a knock at the door sounds in a very distinctive pattern. It's fine, Dadzawa. Izuku calls as the three quickly disentangle themselves, turning to look as Aizawa, Nedzu and a plain man in a trench coat enter. Tsuka. Izuku beams, bouncing forwards excitedly. Why are you here? Don't tell me you came all the way from the precinct? Unless there's a secondary speed quirk you haven't told me about? I'm offended, his teasing is interrupted by his dad. Kid, he was here anyway. You were? And now Izuku is deadly serious, eyebrows furrowed and posture alert. The detective just offers him a smile and a pat on the head. I was here as a spectator, Izuku, I had the day off. You don't need to look so worried. Oh, cool. Have you been watching us three then? We were pretty amazing, huh? Almost good enough to be out fighting villains already, he leers, grin too sharp and too knowing. The man heaves a sigh, but his returning smile is fond. I suppose you would be, he concedes and Izuku beams truly once more. Ah, thanks Tsuka. Oh yeah. Tsuka, Shinso Hitoshi and Todoroki Shudo. Toshi, Sho, this is Detective Tsukachi of the Muzutafu Police, he's cool, trust me. And none of them missed the slight emphasis on trust, and how both of his friends relax infinitesimally with it. Nobody comments regardless. Good to meet you both. I understand that Izuku's little project may be going ahead soon. Yep. You can look at the CCTV for Corridor 19, from about 12:50 to 1:10, our interactions occurred in that period, I think the latter half of it. And I reckon he might have blown a bit of a gasket once we were gone, so perhaps a little past the time frame too. Although for now we're still at the gathering stage, I haven't finished my data analysis, and for now, things are tenable. Izuku finishes up, with a questioning glance at the heterochromatic boy, who only nods once in return. All right. Good work, Izuku. I'll implement everything the minute you send me the files. Until then, keep it up. You still going to go for the whole public thing? You bet I am. No way I'm missing his face when I do that, or the media outcry, for that matter. It'll be great. Just don't get yourself arrested, Tsukachi sighs, exchanging a long-suffering look with Aizawa. And before the greenette can pipe up to defend himself, the detective pats his hair once more and nods to the other students. Nedzu, Aizawa, I'll be going now so that I can still get to my seat, but you can contact me anytime regarding the future case. Izuku, good luck to you and your friends, although I'm sure you won't need it. Izuku just smiles wider and pats the man's cheek playfully before he can turn away. Once the door has closed behind the detective, it is Nedzu who speaks up. Todoroki-kun, I'm sure Izuku-kun has informed you of some of his plans, but I must express that he is not your only avenue of aid or opportunity, as reliable and capable as he might be. If you ever feel the need, my door is open, as is that of Recovery Girl and Hound Dog. Eraserheads too, I am sure. We understand the delicacy of the case and will not take undirected action unless we truly believe you to be in immediate danger. Additionally, once your family is free of him, we will do all we can to ensure that you receive any help you need and will be able to continue your studies here, of that, have no doubt. Thank you, Principal, Shido replies, bowing a little. And whilst his face is perfectly neutral, the warmth in his eyes is blatant. Izuku and Hitoshi can't help but smile at the sight. Of course, the hybrid chirps, before bidding them all goodbye, with good luck thrown in as well. Now they are left with only Aizawa in the room. Todoroki, you are both my student and one of my son's two best friends, he begins, coming to stand in front of Shido, a little slouched so as to be at eye level with the teen, hands in pockets, and as such you should know that I will do everything in my power to keep you safe and happy. The instant you say so, we will remove you from that house, and ensure that your siblings and mother receive the support and protection that they also need. Got it? And despite the terse words, his tone is neutral enough to be kind. Yes, thank you, Sensei. Don't mention it. Just keep on improving yourselves and give it your all for the final round, all three of you. Aizawa gets a little chorus of confirmations at that, so he nods and leaves with a passing hair ruffle for Izuku. It's not his fault that his kid has the softest of fluffy curls, okay? And goddamn, the way his kid leans into even a glancing bit of affection warms that weird little shriveled thing in his chest through and through. Once the adults are finally all gone, the three boys step closer once more, eyes bright. You alright, Shido? Hitoshi asks, a worried twist to his smile that fades as the heterochromatic boy nods. I think so. It's a lot. But it's not bad. I'm glad, Izuku confesses, wringing his hands a little. I was worried that you might hate me for interfering, or for potentially interfering or whatever, even if it was for your safety, so, I'm glad you're okay with it all. I think I'm better than okay. And both Hitoshi and Izuku reach over to each take one of their friends' hands at that, all exchanging soft little smiles with each other. They'll protect each other, come what may. Including the third round.